Oof. Oof. Let's go. YouTube, what is up? We are back with day 104 on our quest to clean 405, and today is our lighter velocity-based day. We are going to hit some sprints, cutting down sprint volume just a little bit today because that Achilles is still flared up. We took last week off just to make it feel a little bit better, and we want to microdose that sprinting a little bit back in. The Achilles is beat up from softball, not really from sprinting and jumping, but the sprinting and jumping does not help the cause. But I know what it's from. Every single time I take that step in softball and decelerate, I really start to feel it flare up a ton, and I just want to baby it a little bit. I just don't want to cook the tendon, as Jake Turo would say. You don't want to burn the toast. Really hard to come back from burnt toast. So we're going to go light on the sprints today. Then we got some kneeling jumps. We got 3 sets of 1 power snatches, 4 sets of 1 cleans into a push press, and then we're finishing up with some squats and some accessories. Should be a pretty electric day. Just finished up BP with bubs and some throwing work, so honestly, we're kind of a little bit shot. We went straight from this morning. We started at 6 a.m., and right now it's 11 a.m. We went from 6 to like 8:30. The training group that we had this morning where I was coaching, and then like 8:30 to 11-ish with BP and throws, and just yapping away with bubs. And all we got in the system right now is a Greek yogurt. So the body's feeling a little bit drained, but we're still gonna after it, and we're gonna send it. Let's go. All right, to start, we are just gonna run 3 Medball kneeling sprints. I kind of like these Medball kneeling sprints. It challenges the athletes to get up off the ground without their hands, which I think is a skill set in and of itself. And then we were running races with these for alpha points this morning, and we were getting after it a little bit with the athletes, so that was fun. So we're gonna run 3 of these with a 10-yard build, and then we're just gonna do 10-yard build into a 10-yard fly just to shorten that distance and build back up into these sprints. Took like a week and a half off. Basically, that left Achilles is flaring up a little bit. Want to get back into these sprints and not burn the toes. So run 2 to 3 10-yard builds into a 10-yard fly. Pretty simple sprint day. We're gonna get after it. Let's go. Ooh, hat almost flew off the face there. Might have to put the hair up. I really like these Medball sprints. I think it forces a good little rotational balance with that upper body where you're getting that side-to-side feel that you see in a lot of elite level sprinters. Makes it feel athletic. When you take the ball down, I really like, Joel Smith talks about this, we've done this before, but you're sprinting with the med ball for like 5 yards, then you shuck the med ball, you throw it to the side, and then you take off sprinting without it. It's a really, really nice feel, especially with athletes that have like a locked up rib cage and they run super uptight. You get a med ball in their hands, they get nice and rhythmic with it, they get good side-to-side motion with that rib cage, and you bias it with that feel, then you throw it, and then you get them sprinting with that rotation in there, and it's a really nice feel. So we're gonna hit 2 more of these, try to beat that time. Ooh. I know I've talked about this before on the YouTube and on the post, and for people that follow the Yoakum Strength page, you kind of know why. But for new people to this channel, on the quest to clean 405, the reason that we're sprinting is not only just because we're playing softball and we want to sprint and just be an athlete. It's not, the goal is not just to single-handedly clean 405 and not be able to do anything else. So I want to keep that athletic component into everything that we're doing, even though it's not the main emphasis. As we get closer to softball season, we obviously emphasize the sprints a little bit more, take a little bit of the volume out of the weight room, feel a little bit fresher, move a little bit faster on the field. But I do think sprinting is one of the highest potent stimuluses you can provide the body. And I think if you want a high CNS stimulus to the body that is gonna drive up your power, in quotations, I don't think there's a better exercise than sprints. I think most Olympic lifters, I think most power lifters, any strength sport athlete that is like your goal is the barbell, I think you should still be adding in sprints to your training. Not necessarily to improve upon the sprints. If you want to improve upon the sprints for other things that you're doing in your life, like me, that's great, that's amazing. But just for the stimulus that the sprints provide and how it can drive up your lifts. I think sprints, once you get sprinting going, it is one of the best things to drive up your lifts. It's a stimulus you really, really cannot mimic in the weight room or really anywhere else, right? It's such a high velocity movement. And it works your body's central nervous system in a level that just lifts do not do. And I really do think it can elevate your game. And the other component of what I like to talk about a lot is how Olympic lifts make regular lifts easier because Olympic lifts are a little bit more athletic, so you can go to the regular lifts and just perform them because they're simpler. It's like a less athletic movement, it's more basic. there's less moving variables. I think sprinting can do the same thing for Olympic lifting, where when you're sprinting and jumping, it's even more athletic than the Olympic lifts. You have to coordinate your body in a lot better way, makes you a little bit more adaptable, and they bring those skill sets into Olympic lifting where you don't have to think as much about Olympic lifting because your body's a little bit more adaptable, a little bit more athletic. So that's why we do sprinting for the ollies, as well as just trying to play outfield in softball and wanting to be fast as fuck, boy. So let's get this third set here, then we're on our fly 10s. Now we got 3 10-yard builds into a 10-yard fly here. Still on the quest to break a 1-1 on these builds here. If we could get that, that'd be electric. I don't know if today is the day. Just getting back into sprinting. Gonna take it a little bit easier. Not gonna coast, but probably not gonna be at top end speed here today. But it'd be cool to kind of open these up and build these up. With our quest for a sub 1 fly 10 with a 20-yard build, this would be a good start for that. Let's go. Oh, actually felt pretty decent. See what the time says. 1:1:26. All right, that's not a terrible start. Our sensors are a little glitchy today. They're freaking out this morning. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Hopefully they work a little better than this. I should show you the screen. It's glitching like a mother trucker. All right, we got 2 more here. Now this is a little bit of bro science, but I do think one of the best ways to get jacked and just like look like an athlete is to do obviously athletic things, but sprinting and jumping. If you're sprinting and jumping and you have a decent diet, I think there's a look that sprinting and jumping gives you. I think it works your core in a way that you want it to work, and I think you can do all the 60-minute abs or 60-second abs that you want, and you will not get the look of a really, really good sprinter that just sprints athletically in the program, that just jumps athletically in their program. And I think there's something about training like an athlete that has you end up looking like an athlete. And so many people want to look a certain way, and they go do like this bodybuilder stuff, and it's like, it works. Obviously you can put on muscle, you can do it, but there's a look. There's that athletic look that everybody kind of knows what I'm talking about. You want to look like that running back. And there's something about sprinting that when I'm sprinting a lot, I look a different way. I look athletic. I look like that lean cut look that I want. And obviously diet is a part of it. You can't just eat like shit and then sprint. But also, like, you're probably not gonna eat like shit if sprinting is a part of your program, just because your numbers are gonna go so far down if you are overweight and you are eating like shit, right? Like, so I think it kind of drills in the diet piece of it as well. But I think if you're sprinting and jumping, you're gonna look the way that you wanna look much faster than if you're just doing weight room stuff. A little bit of bro science there, but I've seen it happen so many times where athletes, man, they start to look lean, they start to look athletic once you start implementing 2 days of sprints and jumps into their program, right? So let's get the second rep here. Let's go, let's cook. 1:1:23, there. Good consistent times. Let's run 1 more. And obviously, not just like the core and the look of like the upper body and just like looking like an athlete, but like building a sweet backside, building up some hamstrings, building up some glutes, which every Olympic lifter knows is important. There's very few things that do that for me in a way that that sprinting does for me, right? Like the way the hamstrings feel, the way the glutes feel, it's a different feel of soreness, and it's a good feel of soreness when you're done sprinting. It grows them like no other. It grows the hip flexors like nothing else that I do. And I just think it's something like, think of it less like you're training to be a track athlete, or less like, oh, I'm sprinting the sprints, and more looking at it as the stimulus of I'm doing these sprints to get better at my Olympic lifts. I'm doing these sprints to get better at my powerlifting. And I think it's something that will be beneficial for most of you if you are just straight up an Olympic lifter or just straight up a power lifter. And it's low-hanging fruit for most people. Obviously, don't go pull a hamstring trying to sprint a fly 10 after not sprinting for 10 years, but you can do 10-yard decels for a couple weeks, maybe a 20-yard decel, like build up into it, but don't look at it as you're sprinting just a sprint. If you get addicted to sprinting and it becomes really fun to you, then you can sprint sprints, and that's amazing. But if your main goal is Olympic lifting, sprint for the stimulus it provides for Olympic lifting. Sprint for the hamstring work in the same way that you would deadlift or do RDLs for the hamstring work. I think sprints are a really, really low cost in the sense of like not feeling beat up in the spine, and like super compressed exercise that you can do, that you can get a ton of core work, a ton of hamstring work, a ton of glute work without having to totally crush yourself. So I think it's just a cool way to reframe why you should sprint in your program for Olympic lifting, for strength sports, and I think it would be beneficial for a lot of athletes. So Let's get this last set here. Let's fly. There we go. 1, 1, 1, 3. That's a pretty good time to end on. Let's get to these jumps here. Now our jumps today are these kneeling jumps for height. Haven't done these in a while. Programmed these for the athletes this morning, and we had some absolute savages getting after these. They were doing a 30-inch kneeling jump. It was disgusting. All right, it was absolutely disgusting. You put an alpha point on the line, you get to see some ridiculous things. But I really, really love these. There's a feel that you get in the hip flexors of like driving yourself up and exploding off the ground that these are money for. This is our third set of 3. Pushing the height on these for me. I mean, we got like fucking 8 inches off the ground here, but I'm a big boy. Get that big body moving. Let's go. We got 3 of these. Ooh! Oh, yeah, let's go. I was asked a question about ground contact time and if I measure it. This obviously, I mean, we're just talking about jumps, so I'm just gonna talk about the ground contact time on these, but obviously it's not as important because you're on the ground for a long time on these jumps. But ground contact time, measuring it is something that I actually think the coaching eye can do a decent job of, and that a lot of people kind of overcomplicate a little bit. When your athlete sprints, when your athlete jumps, when your athlete does pogos, do they fall into the ground or are they able to bounce off the ground? If they're not able to bounce off the ground when you're watching them, if they're sinking and collapsing into the ground and their foot and ankle aren't working, then you should add in more things into your program that emphasize a faster ground contact time for those athletes that aren't able to have a fast ground contact time, right? If you have the tools, that is great. If you want to measure it, that is great. There's not a negative to measuring it. I just think so many coaches get in their head about ground contact time and like overemphasize the importance or feel like they don't have the tools, don't have the force plates, whatever it is. But that's something that I feel like you can just look at an athlete and be like, okay, are you a springy athlete or are you an earthbender? And if you're an earthbender, can we spend a little bit more time on some plyometric type actions that focus on a fast ground contact time to get you to be a little bit less earthbendy? And even shift those earthbenders to be a little bit more bouncy. But what it really is helpful for is those athletes that are not earthbenders, they're not strength athletes, that are like force dominant. They should be elastic athletes that their foot and ankle are not working very well and they are squishing into the ground or they're deep tier with everything and they're squishing into everything and they're holding on to the ground instead of popping off of the ground. And those athletes are the athletes that can really benefit from those things because they're not earthbenders, they're not force dominant athletes. They're just athletes that don't have very good springs, but you can train them to have very good springs, right? So we don't have force plates here measuring ground contact time. We don't do any RSI type stuff, but we do emphasize it in our program, and it's something that I think you can do very easily. And it should just be a part of all of your athletes' programming anyways, is just focusing on getting off the ground fast in some of your jumping type activities, right? So we have some plyometrics in our program, we have some hops in our program where we get a lot of repetitions in that action to build up the foot and ankle. And then we balance that out with some max jumps for height and distance where it's a little bit of a longer ground contact time and they're pushing it, but I think there should be a balance there in your program. And when you watch your athletes, you can kind of steer and direct on, okay, what do they need more of? Do they need more time where we're bouncing off the ground or do they need more time where we're pushing max height? Because you have a lot of athletes that can pop off the ground, but they can't generate enough force to actually like jump high with that, right? So they're very quick off the ground. And I think that's a little bit of an easier fix for a lot of athletes is to get them to jump higher if they are springy versus if they are an earthbender. And I think that takes a little bit more time to build up that spring against the ground. But that's something that I wouldn't overthink a ton with most athletes because I think it's something that you can see in your program and should be in your program regardless, right? So let's get these 2 sets here. Let's go. 2 reps here. Let's go. Ooh, let's go. Ooh, all right. Let's get to some snatches. Now we got 3 sets of 1 snatches here, building up to 205 as our heaviest set of the day. And then we got 2 back off sets at 175. Reading Will Fleming's book, it kind of just confirms what we're doing with these days on these fast Tuesdays, fast Thursdays, where the weight is really, really light. It's a good opportunity to get more technical work done, just get more reps done in the snatch and the clean. But I've been talking about how I like the feel of like moving that weight really, really fast. And once we get the OVR, it'll be really cool to like measure some of these things. I think I'm gonna order it during Black Friday, get a couple basic numbers as we go forward, so that we have like some base numbers to build our velocity-based program off of, which we're gonna start January 1st. We're gonna run this kind of dozer type program until then. But he called these days speedbuster days. And he was talking about how he originally used them as deload weeks. Like the week before he would go max, he would have everything be a speedbuster day where everything's 10% over his minimum velocity threshold, which is the velocity you have to hit to get a snatch up, or the velocity you have to hit to get a clean up, which for him is like 2 meters, and that's based off each individual person when you're measuring, so we'll have to do a velocity profile for myself as we build this out. But then he kind of talked about how he shifted that mentality to add it in, just like we're doing on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where it's a little bit faster, and treating it almost like a high-low model, like that Charlie Francis model, where you have your heavy days, you have your high days where they're heavy, and you're going really high percentages, and you're kind of staying out of that middle ground, and on your low days, it's a really, really light way that you're just moving as fast as humanly possible to speed up recovery and work that central nervous system in aspects that you're not working in. I kind of like that thought process. I don't know if you can actually move the barbell fast enough for it to really matter compared to something like a sprint, but I do like the philosophy around it, and I have noticed that, where I do feel more recovered after these days, and I just leave these days feeling good about myself. So it was kind of a cool read and kind of confirming, not confirming, just because somebody else says something doesn't mean it's right, but giving me some more data points of why I've enjoyed these days so much. But we're gonna start off with the drill that we've been building up and working on to get that vertical path, but today we're gonna do double shrug with no momentum, so a shrug, shrug, and then we're gonna kind of crescendo up into a muscle snatch. So it'll be shrug, shrug, pull shrug even higher, and then a muscle snatch to finish it for a couple warm-ups until we get to 205. So let's get that, let's go. So top set here at 205, moving this bar fast as shit, then we're dropping to 175 and we're moving that bar even faster than shit, if that's possible. Let's get it. 3 sets here. Ooh. Ooh. Oh yeah. All right, let's get some clean push presses. Now we got 4 sets of 1, 250 of these cleans into a push press. A lot of our variations are very similar. A lot of everything that we're doing right now is pretty linearly progressed and decently away from a lot of the Occam strength principles that I follow. And the only reason we are doing this right now is basically I have a time period right now where I can absolutely run myself into the ground, and as softball suffers, that is okay. Because we do not have any big tournaments coming up until probably March. I mean, we have a Vegas tournament in December that I want to be prepared for, so probably take a little bit of a deload that week and just not crush ourselves completely. We have hit tracks tournaments that aren't as big. We have a big tournament in January. But our goal is to prepare ourselves for the season and build a massive, massive base of strength. And to do that, I am okay with nossing myself for a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean the last like 3-ish months. And running myself into the ground a little bit with this linear progression, and run myself into the ground I am. And it's why, again, why I don't program like this for most of my athletes, because I do think it is a good way to run yourself into the ground. But I'm all right with that. I understand what I'm doing right now for this. Once January 1st hits and we get the velocity bar and we start that velocity program, we will start to add in a little bit more variation and we'll be a little bit more auto-regulatory with our program based off the velocity stuff that we're doing. And we're just gonna add in more variations and make it a little bit fun. But until that point reaches, I wanna get to a point, honestly, where I hate fucking Olympic lifting. And that's when I know I have grinded enough and have built a big enough strength base. But until we get to that point, I'm going to keep running my face into the wall and continue to add weight to the bar and continue to feel a little bit beat up and continue to suffer on the jumps and sprints a little bit, just because that is the time period that we are currently in, and I'm all right with it. Again, I'm enjoying this process. So that is why the program looks the way it looks right now. And again, I committed to that dozer type setup and the dozer type program until January 1st. And then he closed down his app, but I want to stick with that approach and stick with everything that I committed to before and just see how far we can take this and really see how far we can push ourselves, not only physically, but a little bit mentally, and just showing up every single day and adding a little bit more weight. So that's the reason the program looks the way it does right now. Let's hit this 4 sets of 1 here. Added 10 pounds from last week. I like the way these are progressing. Still suck at them, but we suck less every week. Let's go. Oof. Ooh. Woo. Whoa. That's a grind. 3 more sets. The variation I'm most looking forward to adding to the program once we get the velocity-based stuff is some deficit cleans and deficit pulls. Beefcake Sensei has been showing them on his Instagram and they look absolutely badass. So I'm definitely gonna add those into the program as we get going and build those in. So I'm excited for those. I gotta figure out a platform. He has like just pieces of wood. So I might have to go to Home Depot and make a little bit of a platform. I have to figure out how to drop it on this floor without breaking the floor, but I think those are gonna be a sickening variation to add to the program. I'm super stoked for that. We still got like a month and a half until we get to that point, but I've been seeing them do those and I've been getting horny to do them. So let's get the second set here. Let's go. Make that press a little bit cleaner. There we go. Let's go. Then we got 3 sets of 2 on these squats here at 365. Getting that bar to move fast. Again, continuing to microdose these squats. I want to PR my squat here pretty soon. The bar has been moving real nice and I feel really strong and I think there's a lot left in the tank here for a 1 rep max on the squat, but you got to build up to it, got to earn it. Let's go. Let's go. All right, second set here. Let's keep this bar moving. Let's go. Let's go. Third and final set here, then we get some Nordics, and then we got some side bends to finish up the day with a little bit of accessories. Let's keep ripping, let's go. Oh yeah. Woo. Then we gotta finish up with some razor Nordics here, and then some side bends with the feet crossed. We'll talk about those in a little bit, but those are money for the spine here. On these curls here, we're starting nice, obviously curled up. We're gonna try and use this. I couldn't find my PVC pipe today, so we got a little bit of a shorter stick. Don't let anybody tell you length doesn't matter because this is a little bit tougher to do. But we're starting nice and curled. We're coming out, extending out, and we're coming back in. We got 8 of these. Let's get to some side bends and get out of here. Now we got these side bends to finish up as our core work for the day. On these side bends, I think one of the easiest hacks you can do to pin that hip and get a deeper stretch is to just cross your feet. Put the foot that you're leaning away from or stretching behind to pin that hip back. Then we're taking a big, nice, deep stretch here. And we got 8 of these each side. These feel absolute money. Oh, if you have spine problems, back problems, I need to stop fucking talking. Can't focus. This is an absolute must for you. Come on, fucker. Oh, yeah. Holy balls. 2 sets of 8 of those. Light your obliques on fire. Make that spine feel good before you leave. Oof. 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 There we go. I appreciate you guys watching. We'll be back tomorrow with another heavy day. Keep chopping wood. Let's go.